the end of the 20th century, a little girl named Rebecca wakes up to a sound coming from their home's pool. When she looks out the window, she realizes that the sound is coming from a toy boat floating on the water. She immediately goes to her brother Tommy's room and tells him that she found the missing boat. But Tommy, who is sick, isn't interested. Rebecca goes to the pool alone. She uses a net to try to get the boat, but the toy has sunk to the bottom. Just as she reaches out, an invisible force pulls her down. Although she is terrified, she manages to break free and surfaces. At that moment, she hears her mother's voice calling her name, but there's no one around. As she swims toward the edge, she sees her brother's toy and turns back. But the mysterious entity pulls her down again. The little girl disappears into the darkness of the pool. Years later, Ray and Eve, along with their children Izzy and Elliot, are looking for a new house. Ray was once a professional baseball player, but a severe injury ended his career. Now he wants to build a peaceful life with his family. The real estate agent shows them a beautiful but expensive house in a luxurious neighborhood. As they continue their search, they find a large house that has been vacant for a long time. The agent says the structure is solid and that there is a large swimming pool in the backyard. While touring the house, Ray's attention is drawn to the pool. It is covered with a tarp. He notices a baseball at the bottom of the water and wants to get it, but he loses his balance and falls into the water. Because of his illness, he has trouble swimming and gets trapped under the tarp. With great effort, he manages to climb to the edge, and his family rushes to help. After this incident, they decide not to buy the house. The next day, Eve takes Ray to the doctor. The result is devastating. Ray's condition is no longer just a disability, it is now advanced MS. Ray, who used to be a baseball player, now has to stay away from the field indefinitely. The doctor says he can only do light exercises like swimming. Following this, Ray suggests buying the house with a pool. He thinks he will recover with water therapy. Eve agrees with this idea, and a few days later, the family moves into their new home. After settling into the house, they all start cleaning the pool together. Ray wants to remove the debris from the drain, but when he puts his hand inside, he gets a deep cut. He manages to pull his arm out with difficulty, but soon after, dark, murky water starts to seep from the drain. The family becomes uneasy and calls a maintenance crew. The crew leader says that this pool is not an ordinary one. He explains that it is fed by a natural underground spring and has a rare self-renewing structure. Once the cleaning is finished, the pool fills with water and the family joyfully goes for a swim. Ray quickly feels the positive effects of the water. His muscles relax, his body feels lighter, but he can't forget about baseball. In the evening, he goes down to the garage and looks at his old trophies and photos. Meanwhile, Eve reviews the household expenses, but decides to set her thoughts aside and go for a swim. As she tries to relax in the water, she notices Elliot's cat watching her. The animal seems uneasy. While Eve continues swimming, she briefly sees Ray standing by the pool with his cane, but when she looks again, no one is there. As the night goes on, the pool lights go out one by one. Eve becomes uneasy and goes inside. She asks her husband if he was just at the pool. Ray, surprised, says he's been in bed the whole time. But outside, the cat wandering by the pool still seems uneasy. After a while, the cat climbs onto the diving board and sees a small toy boat floating in the water. It's the same toy Rebecca saw years ago. Thus, we learn the truth. This is the house where that little girl mysteriously disappeared. The next morning, the family can't find the cat. Only its collar is left floating on the surface of the pool. Ray picks up the collar and goes into the house to figure out what happened. But at that moment, he notices something surprising. The hand that touched the pool water is completely healed. He can't hide his astonishment, but when he sees that Elliot is upset about losing his cat, he covers the pool with a tarp for safety. At midnight, Ray can't resist and gets into the pool again. He feels better than he ever has before. It soon becomes clear that this recovery is real, because at his next checkup, the doctor says that Ray has recovered unexpectedly well. This news lifts the couple's spirits. Maybe Ray will be able to get back on the field one day. After a while the family is spending time together, Elliot says to his father, "Let's go swimming." Ray agrees and suggests a little game. A game where you throw a coin to the bottom of the pool and try to find it. But he says he needs to do a few weight exercises first. Elliot goes ahead and gets into the pool with his toy. At that moment, a coin falls into the water. Elliot thinks it came from his father, but there's no one around. He dives to the bottom to get the coin. Then a few more coins fall in. It's as if someone is pulling him toward the deepest part of the pool. The last coin slips into the drain. Elliot reaches out his hand, and at that moment, he hears the voice of a little girl. He lifts his head and looks around, but he is completely alone in the pool. At first, he thinks it's a prank by his older sister Izzy, but the voice echoes again. This time it's coming from an opening in the water. The voice belongs to Rebecca, the little girl who disappeared years ago. Rebecca asks Elliot to help her find her mother, and in return she says she'll give his toy back. Elliot reaches out his hand, but a decayed hand emerges from the opening and grabs his wrist. Terrified, he frees himself and gets out of the pool, running to his mother. Eve listens carefully to what her son tells her, then goes to check the pool. She only finds Elliot's toy in the water. She tells Ray about the situation, but Ray thinks it's just the child's imagination. He decides to organize a pool party so his son can socialize and wants to invite his school friends. Eve doesn't object to this idea, but deep down she feels that what Elliot experienced wasn't ordinary. The next morning, Ray is invited to give a short training session to the baseball team at his son's school. Eve and Izzy also go to the school to watch Elliot. The practice begins, and when it's Elliot's turn, the boy hits the ball with a perfect swing. Then the coach asks Ray to demonstrate a few swings. Ray decides to give it a try, but he fails on his first 2 swings and collapses to the ground because of his weak bones. Even though Ray is lying on the ground, he doesn't give up. On the 3rd pitch, he realizes that the strange power he felt in the pool has returned to his body. He swings the bat and hits the ball dead center. The ball soars high, flying over the stands and out of the field. As the crowd applauds, his teammates run to him in excitement. However, Eve, Elliot, and Izzy are surprised and uneasy. In the evening, Ray and Eve decide to go out for a romantic dinner. They tell the kids to stay at home. After they leave, Izzy invites a friend from her swimming group over. The 2 of them get into the pool and start playing Marco Polo. Her friend quietly gets out of the water to play a prank. Izzy, with her eyes closed, keeps searching. Suddenly, the pool lights flicker. Behind Izzy, a strange figure appears among the shadows. Thinking it's her friend, Izzy swims down, but what she encounters is a terrifying creature. This human-like being grabs her leg and pulls her down. Izzy manages to break free with great effort and surfaces. Panicking, she grabs onto the edge of the pool and screams. Her friend, however, says she only saw Izzy in the water. Just then, Ray and Eve return from dinner, so her friend immediately leaves the house. Izzy is sure that what she saw was real. There is something in the pool. The next morning, Elliot comes to his sister's room. He notices the fear on her face. Before Izzy can say anything, Elliot admits that he saw something strange in the pool. They both witnessed the same thing. However, Izzy wants to keep this a secret so as not to scare their parents. She also makes Elliot promise never to bring up the subject again. Later that day, the family prepares for the pool party Ray has planned. While the guests are having fun, Elliot secretly sets up a camera at his bedroom window. He plans to record what happens in the pool at night. Meanwhile, while searching for his son in the pool, Ray runs into Ty, one of the students from the baseball team. Ty asks him to sign the ball they used during practice. When Ray takes the ball in his hand, he notices that its surface is torn. His swing was so powerful that it even ripped the ball apart. Although he's briefly surprised, he returns to the party. The children race in the pool, and Ray joins them by putting Ty on his shoulders. Meanwhile, Eve prepares the food in the kitchen and talks to the real estate agent. The real estate agent finally confesses the truth. Years ago, another family lived in this house, and a little girl named Rebecca mysteriously disappeared in the pool. Since that day, the house has been abandoned, and no one has wanted to buy it. Because everyone believes the place is cursed. The woman still insists that these are just superstitions and adds that she doesn't want to disturb their peace in their new home. During the strength contest in the pool, the dark entity appears again. A black mist emerging from the drain enters directly into Ray's body and completely takes control of him. Ray's eyes glaze over, his muscles tense, and as if being controlled by someone else, he walks backward toward the deep end of the pool. The foal on his shoulder ends up underwater and starts to struggle. Elliot, who is watching the incident from a distance with a camera, is horrified and tells his mother. While Eve tries to understand what's happening, Tyne's family notices their son struggling in the water and jumps into the pool to save him. However, there are wounds on his legs that resemble burn marks. At the same time, Ray loses consciousness and sinks into the water. Eve and the children pull him out and drag him to the shore. After the incident, the police launch an investigation. However, at Eve's pleading, Tyne's family decides not to press charges. After this event, Eve is now certain the pool is cursed. Eve realizes that her husband has now been completely taken over by that dark entity. To save him, she investigates the house's past and learns that many people have disappeared in this pool over the years. Then Rebecca's mother contacts Summers, the former owner of the house, and goes to meet her to learn the truth. Eve tells the woman about the strange events they've experienced. At first, Summers doesn't want to talk, but soon, she explains the legend of the wishing fountain called Demigami. According to the tale, this fountain grants people's greatest wishes, but every wish comes at the cost of a life. The pool in Eve's house is also fed by this source. The being that grants wishes lives within the water. Summers finally confesses that on the night Rebecca disappeared, she was possessed by this being. She had wished for her sick child to get better, but as a result, her other daughter lost her life. Eve is horrified by what she hears. Before the woman can say anything else, she suddenly falls ill. Just like Ray, she begins to drown. Thick black water flows from her eyes, nose, and mouth, and with her last breath in a muffled voice, she says that the wishing well will soon claim its next victim. Terrified, Eve flees the house, jumps into her car in a panic, and heads home. On the way, she tries to call Ray, but she gets no answer on his phone, because at that moment, Ray is in the bathroom. The demon in the pool is once again taking over his body. Minutes later, Izzy and Elliot return from school, call out for their parents, but get no response. While Izzy checks the garage, Elliot goes into the kitchen to pour himself some water. Just as he's about to drink, he hears the sound of his cat, which has been missing for a long time. The sound is coming from the pool. Elliot approaches the pool and sees the shadow of a life preserver on the water. He thinks his cat is there. He climbs onto the diving board to reach it. The reel that wraps the pool cover starts moving on its own. When Elliot finally reaches the preserver, he doesn't see his cat, but instead sees the terrifying creature lurking in the dark water. The creature grabs him and pulls him into the depths. At home, Izzy hears her brother's screams and runs to the pool. But the pool is already covered with the tarp. She tries to turn the reel, but she isn't strong enough. At that moment, Eve arrives and together they try to open the cover. But they can't do it. Without hesitation, Eve throws herself into the water and dives into the dark depths to save her son. Eve can't find any trace of Elliot. She sees a dark stain swirling around the drain, ties a hose to her body, and dives into that shadowy passage. As Eve passes through the dark passage, she doesn't know that her daughter is in danger. Ray appears in the kitchen, now completely under the demon's control. He pushes his daughter to the ground and says that Elliot will be the sacrifice. Izzy escapes and hides in the garage. Ray goes after her. Meanwhile, Eve finds Elliot unconscious in the depths of the pool. As she tries to save him, spirits trapped in the water block her way. Just as she loses hope, Rebecca's spirit appears and shows her the way out. When Eve reaches the surface, Elliot isn't breathing. As she performs CPR, Ray attacks and shouts that the sacrifice cannot be stopped. At that moment, Izzy comes in with a baseball bat and hits her father. Ray collapses to the ground and briefly regains consciousness. The family tries to escape, but the darkness in the pool once again targets Elliot. Ray sacrifices himself to save his son and dives into the water. In the morning, Eve, Izzy, and Elliot drain the pool and seal it completely with a cover. Thus, the curse is sealed forever.